Students, in the first video lecture, we have discussed the conclusions obtained from Rutherford alpha ray scattering experiment. Rutherford alpha ray scattering experiment led to the discovery of nucleus, and with, with the conclusions obtained from scattering experiment, Rutherford have introduced planetary atomic model. They have introduced planetary atomic model. So according to Rutherford's planetary atomic model, electrons will be revolving around the nucleus in the circular path. Electrons will be revolving around the nucleus in the circular path, and electron take classical energy forms. Like whenever electron is revolving, it will be going on losing energy. That is the reason why there is a spectrum obtained. And the proposals made by Rutherford, by his outstanding Rutherford's atomic model, were proved to be wrong by some of the experimental verifications. The first thing is that demerits or drawbacks of Rutherford's atomic model. So whenever electron is revolving around the nucleus, electron should lose energy. Electron should lose energy as it continuously release it. Therefore, electron fall onto the nucleus. Electron fall onto the nucleus because as it is continuously providing energy, every body, according to classical physics, every body which is continuously losing energy, definitely at one point or the other point, it should lose its total energy. As a result, when it loses its energy, electron will fall to the nucleus. Therefore, stability of atom could not be explained by Rutherford atomic model. Stability of atom could not be explained by Rutherford's atomic model. That's number one. And number two is that hydrogen spectrum obtained could not be explained by Rutherford's atomic model. Lyman, Balmer, Paschen series, bracket Fund series. So hydrogen spectrum is a discontinuous discrete spectrum. But according to Rutherford's atomic model, electron revolving around the nucleus, it is a continuous energy release process. So it is completely contradicting with the actual spectrum of the hydrogen. So therefore, hydrogen spectrum could not be explained by Rutherford's atomic model, and Zeeman effect, Paschen-Bach effect, Stark effect, these all are not explained by Rutherford's atomic model. These all are some demerits of Rutherford's alpha ray scattering experiment and Rutherford's atomic model. Rutherford scattering experiment made Rutherford to write atomic model. Of course, all the conclusions he obtained from Rutherford's atomic scattering experiment, he gave some conclusions, and he have developed one atomic model. That is, like, Rutherford's model is the first outstanding atomic model for the present atomic model. There are a lot of modifications made by Rutherford than that of J.J. Thomson. In J.J. Thomson's atomic model, nothing has been explained. But Rutherford's atomic model could be explained, like it could explain some factors of atom. But of course, definitely there are some drawbacks. But even then, the present atomic model has the base of Rutherford's atomic model. That is the importance of Rutherford's atomic model. And in between J.J. Thomson's atomic model and Rutherford's atomic model, there are also few other scientists who proposed their own atomic models, but they have no outstanding contributions. That's the reason why after J.J. Thomson's atomic model, the next outstanding model is Rutherford's atomic model. And after Rutherford's atomic model, taking all the conclusions obtained from Rutherford's atomic model, Bohr have introduced quantization rules and he developed Bohr's atomic model, which mostly explains the demerits or drawbacks of Rutherford's atomic model. Now, in this video session, we will be learning about outstanding features of Bohr's atomic model and how he is able to explain stability of atom and what are the modifications he have made for the existing Rutherford's atomic model. Those things we are going to discuss in this video session. So Bohr have introduced stationary orbits. So when Rutherford have told that electron is revolving around the nucleus, it loses energy. When it loses energy, its stability is lost because it falls into the nucleus. That was modified by Bohr by introducing concept of stationary orbits. Electron will revolve in specific orbits called stationary orbits or stationary shells. Whenever an electron is revolving in the stationary orbit, it does not lose any energy. And such orbits are called stationary orbits or stationary shells. And the position of these stationary orbits can be identified by introducing quantization of angular momentum. He introduced concept of quantization of angular momentum. Orbits of electron will be chosen by considering quantization of angular momentum rules. That is, mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. So first angular, like first Bohr orbit is being chosen in such a way, its angular momentum L bar is having a value of h by 2. This is first orbit state. Second orbit state L2, it is 2h by 2 pi. And the third one, it is 3h by 2 pi. Likewise, introducing quantization of angular momentum rules, he have identified the states where electron will revolve around the nucleus without losing energy. So whenever an electron is revolving at such specified orbit, which is obtained by quantization of angular momentum, there in those states, electron does not lose any energy. So in the second postulate, he introduced quantization of angular momentum and he identified the states, stationary states. And the third postulate is that he introduced quantization of energy rule for an electron. So in the previous Rutherford's atomic model, electron release energy continuously. But Bohr have modified that and he stated electron release energy in discrete form, in discreteness. Discreteness means discontinuous is continuous. So when an electron which is revolving in specific stationary orbit, when it take a transition from one energy state to another energy state, one stationary shell to another stationary shell, in order to balance their energy states, it will release some energy in the form of a photon. Therefore, he unified quantization rules made by Max Planck and quantization rules of photon. He added those two and finally gave the third conclusion, which states that E2 minus E1 is equal to NH. So whenever an electron is undergoing a transition from one stationary shell to another stationary shell, it may either lose some energy or it may gain some energy, and that lost energy or gain energy is in the form of photon. And the amount of energy obtained depends on the difference between two energy states of these stationary shells. These are the modifications made by Bohr in his atomic model, and hence it is said to be Bohr's atomic model of an atom. Of course, Bohr atomic model could explain stability of the nucleus, stability of the atom it can explain, and it can explain atomic spectra, hydrogen spectra, and hydrogen-like atomic spectra could be successfully explained by Bohr's atomic model, but it could not explain some factors which are experimentally obtained, and those limitations, the limitations of Bohr's atomic model are as follows here. The first one is that Bohr's atomic model failed to explain the atomic spectra of atoms other than hydrogen atom. It is successfully explaining hydrogen and hydrogen-like atom spectrum, but other than hydrogen atom spectra, it could not explain. That's first failure. And the second thing is, Bohr's model could not give better explanation of hydrogen spectrum because it could not explain the spectrum when two spectral lines are very close to each other, that is a doublet. So when a doublet is obtained, Bohr's model could not explain what is the reason for the doublet. So two energy, like two spectral lines which are very close to each other is being formed on the spectrum, that is said to be a doublet. It could not be explained by Bohr's atomic model, that is second. And the third one is, it failed to explain Zeeman effect, that is a splitting of spectral lines under the influence of magnetic field. So when you are taking a hydrogen atom and placing it in external magnetic field, it is releasing some sort of energies which is obtained in the spectrum, and that effect is called Zeeman effect. Zeeman effect could not be explained successfully by Bohr's atomic model. And the other one is also called Stark effect actually. Zeeman effect is spectral lines, splitting of spectral lines under the influence of magnetic field. Stark effect is splitting of spectral lines under the influence of electric field. So those two spectral line splittings could not be explained by Bohr's atomic model. And the last one is, it could not explain ability of atoms to form molecule by chemical bonds. This is one more failure of Bohr's atomic model. So these are the failures or limitations of Bohr's atomic model. Now let us learn some interesting factors explained by Bohr using his atomic model, and he have derived equation for radius of Bohr's orbit as well. Now when an electron is revolving around the nucleus, there is an electrostatic force acting between these two charges. So if you are considering one electron here, this is an electron. Whenever an electron is revolving around in circular path, definitely there should be a centripetal force, and that centripetal force will be acting towards the center. And the outward force which compensates this is centrifugal force, and it is outward. We discussed this in classical mechanics, like in circular motion we have learned about it. Centripetal force magnitude should be equal to centrifugal force magnitude. So centripetal force magnitude is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught E square, where E is charge of an electron and charge of a proton, E square divided by R square, where R is the separation between center to center separation between electron and proton for a hydrogen atom, and this R become radius of first orbit of electron, and this is magnitude of centripetal force, and this magnitude should be definitely equal to centrifugal force which is acting outward. It is m v square divided by R. right? So as both magnitudes are equal, I'll just equate them as k and z e square divided by r square, where z is atomic number of that particular element, into this is equal to m v square divided by r. Okay, this is equation number 1. And from Bohr's second postulate, we have got mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. This is from Bohr's quantum condition. Bohr's quantum condition, mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. From here you can write velocity of the electron which is revolving in that orbital can be given by nh divided by 2 pi m into r. This is equation number 2. Take this equation 2 and substitute in equation 1. Take this equation 2 and substitute in equation 1. This gives you k z e square divided by r square is equal to m divided by r into v square is n square h square divided by 4 pi square m square r square. This r square gets cancelled, and k can be written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught z e square is equal to divided by 1 is equal to m here and here gets cancelled. It is n square h square divided by 4 pi square m into r. This 4 pi and this 4 pi gets cancelled, and only left will be this r. I am bringing it to the other side. So r can be written as n square h square epsilon naught divided by m pi into e square. M pi into e square. For z is equal to 1, that is for hydrogen atom, you can write Bohr's orbital r is equal to n square h square into epsilon naught pi m e square. This is equation for radius of the Bohr's atomic orbital. Yeah. Students, we have got equation for radius of Bohr's atomic orbital. H is constant, 4 pi square is constant, k is constant, z is atomic number, and m is mass of the electron, and e square is constant. See here, these all values are constant. You can check it out. H square by 4 pi square k z m is constant. Therefore, what is left over on the other side? It is only n. R n is proportional to n square. Therefore, radius of Bohr's atomic model is directly proportional to square of principal quantum number, where n is called principal quantum number. Principal quantum number Rn is directly proportional to n square. This is one thing you should remember. Now we have got this equation for R, and we already have learned mvr is equal to nh divided by 2 pi. From here you can just write down v as nh divided by 2 pi m into r. This is nh divided by 2 pi m into r value. We already have derived it. This is n square h square by 4 pi square k z m e square, and this will be equal to 2 pi k e square divided by h into z divided by n. Now 2 pi k e square by h, this is constant, right? Therefore, you can simply write v is directly proportional to z and v is inversely proportional to n. Velocity of the electron revolving around the nucleus, it is directly proportional to atomic number and it is inversely proportional to principal quantum number. So velocity of the electron goes on decreases as principal quantum number increases. That means if you take this is nucleus, n is equal to 1 first orbital, n is equal to 2 second orbital, n is equal to 3 third orbital, fourth orbital, so on. This is n is equal to 1, n is equal to 2, n is equal to 3, n is equal to 4. As n value increases, what would happen to velocity? Velocity will be decreased. So velocity of the electron in the first orbital is less than velocity of the electron in the second orbital, and it is less than velocity of the electron in the third orbital. So as velocity is continuously decreasing when we are coming outward from the nucleus, its kinetic energy also decreases. The kinetic energy change because its velocity is undergoing change. And now 2 pi k e square by h, this constant value, this total is constant, and this constant value can be simply written as c divided by 137, where c is the speed of the light. It is 3 into 10 power 8 meter per second. You can use this as constant, c divided by 137. Yeah. Students, we already have discussed that whenever an electron is revolving around the nucleus, this is nucleus and here is an electron revolve around the nucleus, and when it is revolving the center to this point, it is radius r, and this velocity is v. Velocity should be always tangential to the curved path. So this is the direction of velocity v. Both are perpendicular to each other. Of course, we will be learning about this in circular motion. Now, whenever a particle is revolving in the circular path, we know that v is equal to r omega, and this can be written as omega is equal to v divided by r, where v is equal to velocity of the electron, and it is translational velocity of the electron. R is equal to radius of Bohr orbit. Now taking this v and r, substituting here, you will be getting value of omega, right? So omega is equal to 8 pi cube k square e power 4 m divided by h cube into z square divided by n, right? And this total parameter is constant. You can check it out. 8 pi cube, it is constant, k is constant, e is constant, m is constant, h is constant. This total value, I can write it as omega naught, which is 8 pi cube k square e power 4 m divided by h cube. All this is constant. So I can just replace this with omega is equal to omega naught into z square divided by n cube, and omega can be written as 2 pi divided by capital T, because whenever electron is revolving in one circular path, it subtend an angle of 2 pi radian. So it is 2 pi divided by capital T. From here, you can just write time period capital T is equal to 2 pi n cube divided by omega naught into z square. So time period will be equal to time period will be equal to 2 pi n cube divided by omega naught into z square. This is equation for time period t. And clearly from this you can write 2 pi and omega naught both are constants. N, it is principal quantum number, z is atomic number. So time period is directly proportional to n cube, and time period is inversely proportional to z square. These are the conclusions which are obtained. So as n value increases, time period increases. As z value increases, time period decreases. So t proportional to n cube and t inversely proportional to z square. As frequency is inversely proportional to time period, right? So frequency nu is equal to 2 pi omega naught z square divided by n cube. So frequency is inversely proportional to n cube. Frequency is directly proportional to z square. Right? These are the equations which will be helpful in solving problems. We have derived equation for radius of the Bohr's orbit, velocity of the Bohr's orbit, time period of the electron in Bohr orbit, and frequency of electron in Bohr orbit. These all are important relations which we have derived in today's session.